Welcome. In this screencast, we take a look at polyhedra, which is a fancy word that comes from a couple of Greek words meaning many-sided. And polyhedra pop up in kindergarten learning standards. We expect children to learn how to identify certain polyhedra, and so I expect you to have some experience with polyhedra. There are a couple of kinds of polyhedra that we pay attention to. We pay attention to prisms. Oh, wow. I am so sorry. We pay attention to prisms. What's a prism? Well, a prism is a polyhedron, which means it has a bunch of faces, where two of the faces are the same, maybe in this case triangles, and then these connect, these connect, these connect, so that two of the faces are congruent polygons, and the rest of the faces are parallelograms. To get this right, those are in the back. And so you get a candy bar kind of a thing, or a tent, or what have you. We call the polygons in the front and the back the bases. All of the polygons that form the sides of the polyhedron, these are all faces. Um, these faces that are not the bases are called lateral faces. The bases are also faces, but the faces that are not bases are all parallelograms. So you could have a square here and then all the way to the back, square in the back, and you got a stick of butter or a long box or something. The squares on either side are the bases. Every other face is a parallelogram. Most of the prisms that we teach children about are what we call right prisms. In other words, if you put this square on a tabletop, that other square would stick straight up. But that doesn't have to be the case. You could have a case where the triangle is sitting on the tabletop and then the sides come out like this in an oblique way. It's not necessary that this be a right prism. It could be an oblique prism, and that's fine. So in a prism, those are the pieces. And you can put any polygon you like as the base. You can have pentagonal prisms or hexagonal prisms. There's nothing against having different sorts of polygons as the bases. We name the prism by the shape of the base. So this is a triangular prism. And this is what we call a rectangular prism. We don't have square prisms. It's a rectangular prism. And you can have pentagonal prisms or hexagonal prisms. There's nothing fancy about that. One other thing, if you have some prism, let's see, let's imagine that you have a tabletop and you've got this square resting on the tabletop, and you go straight up, straight up. Maybe you can see three of those like that, and then you got this happening over here. We could talk about the altitude of the prism. The altitude is a segment that represents the vertical distance from one base to another, the straight vertical distance from one base to another, that we call an altitude. Okay? One other thing to talk about. Let's talk about pyramids, which is the other kind of polyhedron that we worry about with small children, that we teach to small children. Well, what's a pyramid? In the case of a prism, you had two bases that were the same shape and you connected them with parallelograms on all the other faces. With a pyramid, you have some shape as the base, and then all the other faces come to a single point. So you have all of this happening, and everything comes to a single point. That single point is called an apex. So this would be a hexagonal pyramid. It's a pyramid with a hexagonal base. And yes, we can draw a segment from the apex down to the center of the base. That would come at a right angle to the base, and that would be the altitude of the hexagonal pyramid. So in a prism, there are two bases connected all the way around by parallelograms. In a pyramid, there's one base, and everything comes to a single point. Okay? Okay. So I hope this is helpful and you've learned how to draw them. One other screencast in this lesson, and it talks about what we mean by regular polyhedra. That's coming up.